I'm sure a lot of you may recall that a few years ago I reviewed every single film in the James Bond series. Well, that was released by United Artists, except for maybe a few, like the original Casino Royale and Never Say Never Again. Those two I haven't covered. And I've never actually talked about this show either. The only television adaptation of Ian Fleming's character, but actually in a younger way, but and is also the nephew to the original 007. So now I ask you, do you remember James Bond Jr.? Well, I'm about to bring to you right now in the latest episode of Do You Remember? Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews presents Do You Remember? Greetings, my fellow YouTubers. Welcome to Big D's Entertainment Rankings and Reviews. My name is Dual, better known to as the Big D. And today I'm going to be bringing to you another episode of my Do You Remember series, where I focus on some long lost series and why some that might have come back for some time, and some have not been back for some time. This show especially. Now this is a fan requested series, so I'm about to give it to you. Now I like James Bond movies and what have you. I've seen every one of them, well, except maybe for the original Casino Royale, which was more of a comedy, you know. But of course, I never saw much of this show, and it focused on the nephew of 007 himself, and it was from the studio that gave us the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and others. So now, without further ado, I bring to you James Bond Jr. James Bond Jr. was an action-packed spy animated series that focused on the nephew of James Bond 007. The show was produced by Murakami Wolf Swenson Productions, along with MGM United Artists Television. It premiered in syndication in the fall of 1991. Now, usually I would have asked, do you remember first before I show it to you, but I'm going to ask, do you remember this show? Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. Now then, this series started on September 16th in 1991 and ran syndication 5 days a week. It was actually the first television series ever produced based on the Bond franchise and the only anime adaptation. Now, this was the second attempt to create an animated series based on the Bond franchise. Bond screenwriter Kevin McClory announced in February of 1988 issue of Variety that he was working to produce an animated James Bond series called James Bond vs. Spectre, to be produced by an unnamed Dutch company, but the series never came to fruition. In the meantime, Eon Productions began developing what would become James Bond Jr. Now, MGM Television, who of course distributed the films for United Artists, along with Murakami Wolf Swenson, the animation studio responsible for bringing us tunes including the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as well as Toxic Crusaders, which premiered earlier the same year this came out, plus MacB and Danjak. Now, it was fully sanctioned by and produced in association with Danjak and United Artists, who held the rights to the James Bond property. It was the first attempt to bring the Bond franchise to television since the 1954 live adaptation of Casino Royale, and only a single season was produced. Yeah, because now there actually was a TV version of Casino Royale, but I've never looked into that either. Anyway, let's talk about the plot. While attending prep school at Warfield Academy, James Bond Jr., with the help of his friends IQ, the grandson of Q, Gordo Leiter, the son of Felix Leiter, and Tracy Milbanks, fight against the evil terrorist organization SCUM, which stands for Saboteurs and Criminals United in Mayhem, which was a Spectre-like organization. Expanding on his uncle's famous line, James Bond's Jr.'s catchphrase was Bond, James Bond Jr. Now, the show regularly surpasses the Bond movies in terms of fantastical gadgets. While the violence of the Bond movies is nowhere in evidence, Jaws, a recurring villain from the films The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker, made regular appearances, usually partnered with Nick Nack, a villain from The Man with the Golden Gun, forming a bickering comical duo. Yeah, that kind of. Well, I haven't really seen all the episodes. I've seen 3 episodes. I may look into more of it though, because I've only seen maybe bits of this show, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. Auric Goldfinger also appears alongside his assistant Oddjob, also from the Goldfinger film. It is revealed Goldfinger has a teenage daughter named Goldie Finger with equally expensive tastes. The only other villain from the films to appear in the show, though one that is very loosely based on his film counterpart, is Dr. No, who is depicted as being Asian and having green skin, a common practice at the time in children's media whenever Asian villains are showcased, such as Ming the Merciless in Defenders of the Earth back in the 80s and the Mandarin in the 90s Iron Man series that would come a few years later. Several episode titles parody the titles of Bond films such as Live and Let's Dance and Rubies Aren't Forever, which I did watch that episode, and it was pretty good. That was actually a later episode. Now, again, I've never actually gotten to watch this because, well, not even our Fox affiliate, which was still kind of new at the time, didn't air the show, unfortunately. Even though they did air the studio's recent, big hit, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which was now on CBS at that time. They did. But anyway, oh boy. Now I can tell you that this show, I feel like it's underrated. I wish it could have kept going because after watching just a mere 3 episodes, I think it could have done pretty well. Now the main characters consist of not just James Bond Jr., his friends, and several featured, and some of the villains and why, but there's several featured members of the Warfield Academy staff, and Trevor Noseworthy the Fourth, who I'll get to in a second. They appear in almost every episode of the series. Sometimes only 2 or 3 of Junior's friends will accompany him on an adventure, leaving the others behind at Warfield to create a B plot. These plots normally revolve around Trevor's misguided attempts to get James into trouble. Voicing James Bond Jr. is Corey Burton, who has done numerous voices and what have you. He actually voiced Shockwave on the original Transformers animated series. And also, he had recently did vocal effects for the titular characters of the 1986 classic horror comedy Critters. And he's also done various characters for Disney cartoons, as well as lend his voice to other types of programs and movies. Well, he's got too many to mention, though, to be honest. Now then, Jeff Bennett voices IQ. His real name's Horace Boothroyd III. He's voiced by Jeff Bennett, who would later go on to do various characters on Dexter's Laboratory, The Powerpuff Girls, Earthworm Jim, Gargoyles, Lilo and Stitch the series, the Land Before Time franchise, later on, and Shaolin Showdown. But he also was, and also the voice of the title character, Cartoon Network's Johnny Bravo. Oh yeah, and he also did the voice of Dr. Phibes in Shaggy and Scooby-Doo Get a Clue. He's really something. He has a scientific genius and one of James' best friends. He's quick-witted and highly logical, and is responsible for developing and building the gadgets that help James defeat the agents of Scum. Pretty cool. Voicing Tracy Milbanks is Mona Marshall, the daughter of Bradford Milbanks, who I'll get to in just a moment. Now, she's bossy and quick tempered, but sometimes betrays her feelings for James. Now, her first name is a reference to 007's late wife, Tracy Bond. Voicing Goring Liar is Jan Rabson. He's a tan blonde athletic strong fist, member of James's friends. He's also kindly and amiable. And, well, he's pretty cool. Next up is Phoebe Farragut, voiced by Susan Sillow, who recently voiced Sue in the Pac-Man cartoon. She also voiced Wuya in Shaolin Showdown. Of course, Chef Ben voiced Clay on that show. Now, I must say, she's pretty funny and what have you, and she's the daughter of a rich businessman. She makes no secret of her crush on James, although the feelings are never reciprocated, paralleling Maud's relationship with Miss Moneypenny in the films. Voicing Trevor Noseworthy IV is Simon Templeman. Now, he comes from a wealthy family and has an inflated sense of superiority and self-importance. He's arrogant, egocentric, and spiteful, as well as cowardly and fearful. He constantly plans to get James into trouble, hoping to have him expelled, but it initially backfires. Julian Holloway voices Bradford Milbanks, an ex-RAF officer and Tracy's father, who is the headmaster at Warfield. Although serious and rigid, he is a fair and accommodating disciplinarian and parent. And finally, Brian Stokes Mitchell voices Burton Buddy Mitchell, former FBI agent and associate at 007, now working as Warfield's gym teacher. He's strongly intelligent and serves as James's mentor. He knows more about James's adventures than he lets on to the rest of the school staff, frequently risking his own job by allowing the youngster and his friends to get into danger. Now of the Scum villains, we have Jeff Bennett voicing Scumlord, who is believed by some to be none other than Ernst Stavro Blofeld in a way. Yeah. He's never seen outside of his surveillance room and is always sitting in the dark wearing a trench coat, a fedora hat, and sunglasses. And he has a dog named Scuzzball. Jaws is voiced by Jan Rabson. Yeah, he looks pretty mean and what have you. Jeff Bennett also voices Nick Nack. Yeah, I'm sure you know that. Is Dr. Derange is voiced by Julian Holloway. He's an evil scientist with long black hair and speaks with a French accent. Has an insane passion for all kinds of radioactive materials, mainly plutonium. The next member is Skullcap, voiced by Jan Rabson as well. The top-ranking scum assassin who is almost always found working for Dr. Derange. His name is derived from the steel headgear encasing the top part of his head. He's extremely cold and insidious, though not particularly cunning. Then also voiced by Jan Rabson is Auric Goldfinger. While Goldfinger is voiced by Kat Susi, who of course was voicing Linka on Captain Planet, and of course she lent her voice to Phil and Lil on Rugrats, and she has also done several other cartoons and what have you. Jeff Bennett does the voice of Odd Job. Here's more. We have Barbella, voiced by Mona Marshall, a hot-tempered female bodybuilder who often exhibits superhuman strength. And she has loyalty for no one, least of all Scum, whom she betrays in one episode. Dr. No is voiced by Julian Holloway. Then there's a gravel voice Scum agent named Spoiler, who is voiced by Michael Goff, who has done numerous voices. Most notably, Deckard Cain in the Diablo video game series, and Gopher in the Winnie the Pooh animated series and recent movies. He's done voices for several others as well. Now, there's Baron von Skaren, voiced by Julian Holloway, a Bavarian baron who is also an international terrorist and firearms smuggler. Walter D. Plank, voiced by Ed Gilbert, who was also a voice actor on Captain Planet. He voiced Lewin Plunder. He also recently lent his voice to Brave Star and several other tunes. He's a pirate with a hook hand, eye patch, a peg leg, and talking parrot that also has an eye patch and peg leg. Yeah. Susan Silo voices Miss Fortune, a wealthy criminal aristocrat, and her wealth never prevents her from attempting to acquire more through highly illegitimate means. Let's see, the Chameleon, a dangerous criminal who is a facial shapeshifter due to nanotechnologic mechanisms implanted under his skin on his face. Voiced by Alan Oppenheimer, who, of course, you know, voiced Skeletor on He-Man. And then numerous other voices. Mona Marshall voices Tiara Hotstone, the jewel-loving mercenary who shares a rapport with James Bond Jr. Despite being ruthless, she is inclined to pursue only jewels and money rather than power or world domination. Maximilian Cortex, a diminutive villain with a very large brain. He's very wealthy, but is always looking for ways to increase that wealth. Don't really know what they don't say his voice though. And the Worm, voiced by Jan Rabson, the only recurring villain in this series not to be associated with Scum. He's a first-rate terrorist and hypochondriac with an intense dislike of sunlight, making most of his plans taking place deep underground. And there's lots of other Bond girls, but there's too many. There's just a few too many to mention, to be honest. but now you know all about that. Whew. Sorry, I just got carried away with talking about all of these characters. Believe me, the list goes on and on. There's just so many other voice actresses and what have you. So anyway, I think you're gonna like this. If you're into James Bond, then I think you'll feel right at home with James Bond Jr. You can't. There are several episodes of it available on YouTube. After it aired, the only time I can remember this series being rerun was on Cartoon Network, which I only caught a tiny bit of it. And unfortunately, it was dropped from the line when I got satellite. Henceforth, I never got to see the show, and like I said, I looked into 3 episodes, including the episode Rubies Aren't Forever. After its run, it got released on video cassette by MGM UA Home Video and also on video cassette in the UK, which had more than one episode. Except for the Eiffel Missile and the Chameleon. There were also various books as well, book novelizations, including the episodes A View to a Thrill, The Eiffel Target, Live and Let's Dance, Sandblast, Sword of Death, High Stakes. And there's others that came out: Tunnel of Doom, Barbella's Revenge, Freeze Frame, Dangerous Games, and many others in one that were not part of the series. Marvel Comics actually had a limited 12-issue run of it. There would also be a series of toys, which I think was from Hasbro, I believe. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Hasbro. And there was also 2 video games, which were published by a company everybody loved to hate on, THQ. The NES port was developed by Eurocom, while the SNES port was developed by Grey Matter. I've looked into the SNES version. It's alright, but it just doesn't have much great music, though, to listen to. I haven't really looked into the NES game, though, because I think that game's pretty long. but I've been wrong before. So anyway, so now you know about James Bond Jr. And but wait, there could be more. I'll go ahead and give you a better look at the characters. Well, the main characters through a poster. Here's a good look at an actual artwork in a bigger way, like you saw than what you saw at the beginning of the video, with the titular character and some of the villains plus IQ. Looks pretty cool. But as I always say in my TV logs or Saturday morning TV logs, if you want to know what the other characters look like, you're gonna have to watch the series. As I've said, you can find some full episodes of James Bond Jr. on YouTube. I'm not sure if you can find all episodes, but if you do find all of them, good luck. I'll try and watch some more of this sometime or sooner. So now you know about James Bond Jr., and this is a show I would recommend you give it a watch. It was short lived though. I wish it, after watching just those 3 episodes, I still think this could have potential to keep going. So enough said. So what did you think of James Bond Jr.? Have you ever watched this show? Let me know in the comments section below. If you like the video, click the like button, subscribe, and be a part of the Big D Nation. Continue to help support my channel, make it grow, and make the views grow. Join me next time when I bring to you a review of Disney's Tarzan for its 25th anniversary. So if you like this, you may want to check out my reviews for some of these James Bond films. In the upper left-hand corner is my review of the first film to ever come out with Sean Connery as Bond, and that would be Dr. No. So that's a good film. Or if you'd like, go to the upper right-hand corner and see my review of one of my favorite films with the longest running Bond, Roger Moore, in The Spy Who Loved Me. Or if you'd like, go to the bottom left-hand corner and see my spoiler-free review of the most recent Bond film, the last film to have Daniel Craig as Bond, in No Time to Die. And the bottom right-hand corner is the button you can click to subscribe if you like rankings and reviews on movies, TV, music, video games, etc., as well as Do You Remember, then I'm your guy. Thanks for watching, and there will be more Do You Remember coming up sooner or later. Until next time, I'm the Big D saying, see ya.